online series. And today we have Karnika, Suhirtha, and Sabina, who would be here to discuss who is a nature educator. But just before we dive into the discussion, I'll take a moment to introduce Early Bird and what we do. So at Early Bird, we are on a mission to connect children to nature through birds, while also wanting to make nature education accessible to everyone. And how we do it is we create content, we train educators, and we also engage in some outreach. With content, we have a lot of materials from pocket guides, posters, and these are available in 10 plus Indian languages, and you can, Abhisheka or Varsha from the Early Bird team would share the links in the chat if you want to explore more about them. And to get this content, to use these content, we also train educators who can then take a mission forward of connecting children to nature. And for our outreach efforts, what we do have a young birders network, which is to nurture the next generation of bird enthusiasts, while we also do a monthly bird walk in Bangalore. And then we have this series of webinars and panel discussions that was started back in 2022. In this series is where we are wanting to talk a lot about the fundamentals, topics of nature education, and discuss challenges, share ideas to overcome these challenges. And in case you have missed out any of the previous sessions and want to watch them, you can check out the playlist on our YouTube channel, the link to which will again be shared in the chat. So just before we begin again, just reiterating the housekeeping rules for the session, we request all the participants in the audience to keep their videos off, while we have also kept everyone on mute, and you won't be able to unmute yourself. But during the session, in case you have something, that we do encourage you to share your experiences and ask questions. So in case you have something to share, you can use the raise hand reaction, or type it in the chat box. We do have a Q&A session towards the end, where we can take all the questions that are there in the chat. So let's get started. So I'd like to welcome speakers on the panel today, Karnika, Suhirtha, and Sabina. Thank you so much for joining us, and the audience for joining us and taking out time on a Saturday evening. To get us started, I would request you all to introduce yourself, tell us little about your work, but also add to it what you think an educator is and how you were inspired to get started in nature education. So I'll, Suhirtha, if you can start.
Hi, everyone. I'm Suhirtha. I'm from Coimbatore. I work with the SeasonWatch program of the Nature Conservation Foundation. I've had the opportunity during my, time at Salim Center for Ornithology, engaging with nature education programs there. So I was introduced to nature education at there. But in general, I feel that, anyone can be a nature educator. It's not someone who needs to be professionally or who needs to know things. like identification or, and specific things. Anyone who allows a person to appreciate things around them, shows them how you can appreciate things around you. I think they are nature educators. Yeah.
Sabina. Thank you, Suhirtha and Sabina. If you can.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Early Bird, for having me here. And just to introduce myself, I'm Sabina. I from Chennai, and so my experience with nature has been, what do you say, completely because of the experiential learning center that I run here at Chennai. It's called Sunnyside. So it was like, am I a nature educator? I mean, I don't call myself a nature educator. Since the philosophy of Sunnyside is where we learn through experiences, so nature was the very natural choice, right? So that's how my what to say journey with nature education has been. So I'm not an educator; I'm a co-learner. That's what I would say, right? So it's only that, I mean, the ideas come from my children, where we should go, what we should do. Sometimes it's mine, so together we collaborate and we can come up with where we should go, what we should do, and things like that. Yeah, so that's been my experience. And what do you say? It is purely because of, I mean, I got onto nature education purely because of what do you say, the children at Sunnyside, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Sabina. And Karnika, if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little more about what inspired to get into nature education.
Hi, I'm Karnika Palwa, and I'm in the privileged spot as a parent and as a member of a parent community that views learning and education in a holistic and empathetic way. It's only after I became a parent I realized that children uh, learn the best through imitation. And so I realized that when I was curious about something and I was trying to investigate and find out, my child simply followed me. And so I realized there was less need for instruction, but more need for me becoming the purpose. And that's where it started. I have a bit of the background of climate change research, and there was a sensitivity towards um, my living environment where I was. I mean, I think I was always hoping that the children I interact with, including my own, would also be a bit more observant around their living environment. And that's, I think, someone who can hold space to freely observe, wonder, question. There's a good chance to refer to them as a nature educator, and it's actually the word nature educator sounds like there has to be something to earn it, right? And sure, but so like Sabina, I also agree. I mean, I not know if I must refer to myself as a nature educator or a learner on the way, but I'm very grateful to be here, and thank you so much, Amrita, and everyone.
Thank you so much. It's really lovely and wonderful to know that how you are doing nature education or nature engagements, connecting people to nature, despite not really being from the field of nature education or being like formally trained in it. But then there are some people who do have hesitations or reluctance when it comes to uh, taking up a nature education. And my next question would be to you all: what do you think is the reason, or what's stopping them from taking up nature education? Suhirtha, since you have worked with a lot of teachers, I would, if they have shared any challenges with you or you have observed anything, if you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Amrita. So over the last 2 years, I closely work with a few teachers who are helping us with, creating a climate change resource module that they can use, that teachers can use in classrooms. So initially, we had put out a survey asking teachers, how their own experiences of nature is. So, like, what do you enjoy when you go for a walk? What do you do? So, in the survey, we found that a lot of teachers, really enjoy their walk or really enjoy their uh, everyday experiences in nature. But we found that, the reluctance comes when they are already overburdened with so many other factors in school, and finishing the curriculum, and a lot of other requirements in school, and also social things happening at home and everything. So the burden of other social factors are immense. So I think that's one hesitancy that they feel. And another thing I felt is many of them feel that I don't know enough, that then why should I start? Many of the teachers who we engage with in SeasonWatch, they say, like, I don't know enough trees. How am I going to engage kids with the SeasonWatch? So the initial doubt of, do I know enough? But actually it doesn't matter, if you just have that inherent interest to just go out for yourself first and then for the kids, I think that will be enough.
What you said about just having the innate curiosity really goes long way. So, Sabita, do you have anything to add to this? Sabina, you're on mute in here.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to unmute myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just if you, what do you think are reasons why people might be hesitant, or what's stopping them from taking up nature education? What are your thoughts on that?
So, well, I mean, I think what to say. Suhirtha rightly put it. Actually, when it comes to teachers in other schools, this is the challenge they face, right? And very rightly so. I mean, everybody feels underprepared to be a nature educator, right? They really feel that nature education comes with some kind of a certification, right? I mean, need to be certified by somebody, or I should have done some kind of a degree in zoology. I don't know what, right? So some things like this, right? I think these are some kind of prejudices, or I don't know what we call them, right? Now, personally, see, with my experience, like in my experience, I mean, I have never gone. I mean, has never done anything with respect to nature all these years, right? It all just started 2 years ago, right? I mean, I have gone to spaces, but it's not like I've really, observed things, learned a lot, talked to people about it. That hasn't happened actually, right? And when I started, like I said, because it was all experiences and it has to be relatable, what children can actually see, observe, and be curious and ask questions about, nature became the natural choice, right? So we used to step out for nature walks and things like that. So it's like, it just happened. And, there was never a nature walk that I was prepared for, right? There was nothing like preparation. So only the spot. Okay, where are we going? Okay, we are going to the beach today. Where are we going? We're going here today. That's it. We just know where we are going, but what are we going there for? We really don't know. And the earlier walks, I remember that we wouldn't even carry anything with us, because I really did not know whether, nature, these materials were available and things like that, right? I mean, resources were available. Then I'd started scouting for some, local, resources which I could use with the children and things like that. So it actually built up. So the earlier walks, etc., that we did was all like, completely ad hoc, just go, just explore, like look at things, then, have discussions, and then come back and you have, Sir Google to help us, right? And if Google cannot pass the test, then you try to reach out to people who can basically try and answer some questions, right? I mean, to even give some examples, like, what do you say? I mean, the beach walks we had, right? You could probably, share the screen with the pictures. Yeah. So this is something like, what do you say? This is one of the very early exercises we took up, even before we stepped out, right? Something called a scientific sketching, that I just, bumped into this, right? And then I thought, okay, this is an observation exercise. So what do you go in scientific sketch? We just took out leaves from my garden, the jasmine tree. Everyone picked up the same, jasmine tree leaf, but everyone's leaf was different, right? So they sat down to sketch that leaf, and you can see the intricacies that they have noted down over here, right? And what all they see, and then what this reminds me of. If you see, this child is captured, right? What to say, as to what this reminds me of, a caterpillar, and what to say, and so many other things. And what I wonder, can this leaf have different colors? So these are the kind of things we saw, that nature related questions, etc. It results, kind of opens up the mind, right? This is another walk that we did. This was in a friend's garden, right? And she has a beautiful garden, which she says it's the untamed forest, right? So and this part of the year, it's like, it's lush green like this with lots of butterflies, right? So she had informed me earlier, then we thought, chalo, we'll go have a look there, right? Let's see how many butterflies we can spot and things. So we just went there, having no ideas of the variety of butterflies that is there in Chennai itself. Absolutely no idea, right? Just went there, made some observations, took pictures, right? Then came back home and started searching for, what is what, this look like this, etc. That's this is another one, right? And I think there's one more picture. Yeah, this is from the beach walks that we've done. So this is how you can see the first picture. This is how we step out with nothing, right? Just go walking together, right? And we'll just be exploring. And this pufferfish was one that we found in one of our walks, right? And our kids were like, what is this? This looks like it has teeth like an animal, and and it's all puffed up, what would have happened to it? And there were a lot of questions around this. And then we had to come, when we came back, children read extensively about what's the puffer fish, what is its behavior, and what makes it do this, and does this happen seasonally? Is this a cycle, as a part of the year where this happens? And what what's the entire the science behind all these things and stuff, right? And this has been completely, where children have led this whole thing by themselves, right? So the curiosity of asking questions has led them from one to another. Yeah, and the middle one, I mean, there was one picture of, that was from a shore walk, right, where we learned a lot about what to say, uh, hermit crabs, right? And hermit crabs is something we never even heard about, and we heard about how hermit crabs change shells and things like that, right? Again, this we learned not from any educator actually, right? But this was from those the boys who belong to the fishermen who are there, who are there, right? And they actually brought all this out from the catch. So this boy had come, right, from his father's net, from his catch that morning. He brought everything and he showed us, this is live, this is this, this is this, this is this. And, he showed us so many varieties of crabs, and, there were crabs with eggs in it and things like that. I mean, it was some orange and some kind of a mass. And he said, those are all eggs, right? So this was what, what do you say? And this was a boy who we were talking to, and he was showing the kids all the different things. And he was so enthusiastic in telling us, shall I tell you more? Shall I tell you more? Right? So, and he always, is like, so when are you coming back? So I'll have more to show, right? So these are the things that we have done. Okay, this is completely where we have not, planned, or we've not like, I mean, it's not like I have educated myself to do this kind of, right? So I think if we take the step, right, and it will, one will lead to another. Yes. So you can never be prepared and then get onto nature education. Yeah.
Your experience of the kids from the community coming and sharing their experiences during the beach walk kind of takes me back to when I used to do some beach walks in Mumbai. And that's true. There's so much. Sometimes even the people there would just come and talk about, like those kids would so enthusiastically talk about things, and you learn so much from them. So yeah, that's really interesting. And so Karnika, like if you want to add some more points to this.
Right. Actually, building on to what Sabina has mentioned about the local boy coming in and sharing, and the reason he was able to do that was because he was connected to where he was, and hence he knew. He spent a lot of time observing, asking, exploring. So I think traditionally there was no such working title, excuse me, for as a nature educator, simply because perhaps people were spending far more time with the land. They were connected to the food they were growing, they were connected to the water source they were using, and there was I mean, we are still connected, but there's just so many links in between. The distances have grown, and we're part of a much larger system, and so it's just very few of us who know exactly about so many things, including that how much time does it take a banana peel to decompose in a bin? There is so much that of the natural processes that we feel disconnected with, and which used to be household knowledge earlier, just like home remedies, and so nature education was quite very intricately interwoven into our lifestyles, into our culture, into our knowing, and into our connection with life itself. And hence the requirement of in today's life comes in with nature education. We need nature education. We need somebody to sort of escort us and bring us closer to our own self, and to observe better. Um, and so I feel if the purpose of nature education is clear, and like in my case, where I was coming from the research field of climate change, and I realized, and here I'm going to quote 𝗔𝗯cie𝘂𝘁, which is a very popular quote now, and people protect what they love. So if I have to imagine the children of today who are going to be youth of tomorrow would be responsive to the crisis that they see around them, what sort of connection are they building today with their living environment? Is it going to be through textbooks, or is it going to be through experience and real engagement? So I feel if the purpose is the connection to nature education and why it must happen, quite inherently, the why and how and what's of nature education simply start to flow. In the case of a parent, I would, from the lens of a parent, I would say sometimes it can feel a bit overwhelming. It should, oh, how can I teach everything, right? And this probably should come from a teacher. And so sometimes a parent is unable to identify themselves as an educator themselves and as a nature educator. And those points that Suhirtha and Sabina brought out, that the hesitance, that do they know enough? And I found great liberation in when I embraced that I can say I don't know sometimes. So normalizing and I don't know to a child, I felt that the child was not idealizing me as well. So I felt that was also good, because it's not necessary that I would know everything. And it also became a good exercise in observing further. So there was this bird that it was a migratory bird, it was a warbler, and I could not identify. And this child who thinks that Karnika auntie knows a lot about birds kept asking me, but what was that bird? And I said, no, I do not know. Can we suppose just observe a bit more about the bird? So that led us to kind of in fact noting down carefully about the bird that we were seeing, the size and the color and the tail and the beak and a bit more. And so, and then we took a note of that, and I told her, all right, now I need to look up my field guide, where I saw the bird, what it was doing, and so this way we actually we went forward to the field guide because I did not know. So sometimes I think embracing this, that one may not know, and it's okay to tell a child that one does not know in this moment, but we can find out, and let's find out together, and take the help of resources to do it, may also work. And I think then this idea to the child that, oh, there is so much to explore. It's not necessary that the adults around me know everything. There are questions they aren't able to answer. So that's great, which means I can also be part of the exploration, and I can also probably come up with possible answers.
Thank you, Karnika. Actually, you did touch upon a lot about which takes me to the next question about how one can get started. Because if, like with what Suhirtha mentioned about curiosity being like a very key point in getting started, or Sabina said just on similar lines and things. So maybe Sabina, if you would like to add on to how do you think people can just get started with nature education, and if you have any more points to mention about it.
Yeah, we could just get started with just, what's in our own homes. I mean, if you have a small, I mean, I know we live in urban cities where hardly people have anything called a garden, right? But even if it's a couple of pots that you have plants there, and it's in your, balcony, or it's a smaller thing that you have some plants in your house, right? We start with basically just observing that, and if we actually, it is a very simple exercise that, I had seen my children do as a part of some other program that they attended, where they had to observe a tree and, and note it, keep observing it for a period of 3 weeks or something like that. And the children had picked a banana tree, right? And in the beginning it was like, it looked like every day the tree looked the same, right? And what is the observers the same, right? But I could actually see on day 3, 4, they were writing different things, right? And then when you see the whole thing together after 3 weeks, and you see there's a story there, right? And so there is something to observe there, right, which we missed out, right? So the thing is to just first get started probably with what is just there in our own homes, right? And the next is our own neighborhoods, right? In our neighborhoods, we wouldn't even know until I had my children come and tell me. I never knew that how many varieties of birds actually visited our neighborhood, right? And they would say, I mean, auntie's house is the best one because we at least spot some 10, 15 different birds. I'm like, really? Other than the crow, I've never heard anything, right? So I think, so I think the first step is to just get started with where you are, from where you are, and what's reachable. That's your neighborhood, right? Instead of, planning something, somewhere that's very, very, very far away or anything like that, right? Just get started with observing things just where you are, right? And I had a child who lives in a very, very, a very, in a city which is in a part of the city which is very crowded actually, right? And you find no nature there, right? And he has observed so many varieties of birds just by going to the terrace of his house, right? And he goes and he's actually found out the pattern and what time the birds are coming and when he can observe, and he knows the time frame. He's found out, okay, if I go now, so he goes a little later, 5:30, something like that, and he's standing there watching, and he's like, and he's even named some eagle and some things, these birds that we've never even heard of. And so how did a child like this, I mean, so it's basically, if you are willing to observe, right? I mean, just get started where you are, is what I would, yeah, from my experience, yeah.
Thank you, Sabina. And Suhirtha, earlier you mentioned like teachers sometimes do hesitate on like, I don't know enough, and then how do you then get them to SeasonWatch or engage with nature?
Yeah, just like Sabina said, no, we just ask them to just start slow. It's okay if you don't know everything. It's all right as long as you just, start looking at the tree immediately next to you. You just don't have to know the names and its biological name or scientific name. So it's okay. And also, one more thing, I feel that the hesitancy that I don't know enough, that comes from our societal, like the mainstream schooling has said that what the child knows or what the teacher already knows from their own environment is not so important enough than what I give you in the book, or what I say is nature. So we kind of neglect what they already know, and that sort of is alien to the child. No, it's sort of alien to the teacher also, that, oh, this list of birds, this list of thing, it seems alien to them. So I think it should be a balance of both. It's important to know the scientific things that's going on. That's how you link the environmental problems that the child or the society is going to experience. So I think it needs to be a fine balance of both. I don't know if I answered your question.
Definitely. It's just like, I think the general theme would just be like, get started and
Yeah,
be
yeah,
like a co-learner
yeah,
and co-explorer with
yeah,
your
yeah. Yeah,
audience.
that's true. Yeah.
So,
So I'll just tell you one short thing. So when I started studying dragonflies, I hardly knew any dragonfly. I could not identify even one. But it took me just a few months. Maybe for the first week, I could start identifying five, and then I went back to the wetlands again and again and again, and I found out after a few months that the first week identification, many of them were wrong. And then I went back and I just read it after I understood the identification. So gradually I could identify a lot more. Now I could identify a lot more. So it's just practice, so anyone can learn things. So I think it's just get started. Yeah, that's the thing.
Karnika, would you like to add some more?
Right. I think so in complete agreement with what Suhirtha and Sabina have mentioned already, and building on, I think if we focus on the developmental need of the child in front of us, so what we would do with a 3-year-old would be different than what we would like to do with a 13-year-old. The subjects you'd like to touch. So what the why of nature, why are we doing this? So once that is also in the background of of an educator, that all right, this is why we're doing, but how do we take this, how do we lead them to asking the questions rather than answering them? Can we get to refining the questions than focusing on the right answers? So there are 2 examples that I would like to quote in my experience, and I'm again very grateful that I'm part of a community of parents. So there was this one chance that I had with where there was a group of children aged between 3 and 10, and there were about 10-12 children, and there was somebody who was 3, 2 of them were 4, 2 of them were 7, and so there was a range of children, and I had to start with all of them together, and that led me to innovate the flashcards, the early bird flashcards. Amrita, maybe you would like to share the slide. So
Yeah.
if you look at the early bird flashcards, those of you, if you haven't had a look, they are these wonderful A5 sized flashcards with all the common birds. I'm talking about the picture on the left. And so I made an animated game out of the flashcard. So there are already actually many games that one can play with the flashcards, and it's really amazing. And I'm yet to play some of them. But because some children were really young, I thought that if we could animate the game, it was also a cold morning here in Delhi, and we gave action. So the idea was to become the bird. And so there's one flashcard on the flame bag says that pick up a stick, pretend it to be your nose, and ram into the tree 30 times a second. Now, one tried doing that, and the questions that flowed 30 times a second, are you serious? How can that happen? Or with the little grebe that's right in front of you, like dive down for 10 seconds, or ride the back of your parent and go for a swim. So there was a lot of fun, children becoming little grebe ducklings and riding on their parents' back. So it was fun. It was fun for everyone. It was fun for the whole family. And I realized that it was just not for the children. That there were parents who were asking me more questions. So this was. I think I realized that if you have a group that has several diverse needs, you will automatically lead to innovating with whatever you have. On the right, there's an image of a game that I created that's absolutely inspired by All in a Bird's Life game, again by Early Bird, and one must check it out and play it. It's really fun. And while but this session was on bee awareness. So, and again, the children were 8-year-olds, and in a bee workshop. So I had to make a game, and so I took inspiration from the All in a Bird's Life game, which has, the All in a Bird's Life game also has these, so if you, there is construction on your wintering grounds, take 2 steps back. And so there is a backwards and forwards movement in that game, and communicating why there is a backward and forward. So similarly, there was in this game as well, that there was, it was an educative game. So I feel that also can guide us. The second thing is, I think, most definitely be part of a local community of bird watchers or nature enthusiasts, or people who like to take a walk in your nearby city forest. Making a local community of people who are interested could go a long way. So one would learn much more together, explore much more, and I think that's a great start.
Thank you for kind of giving insights on what really can get people started. And also, I think you have all kind of brought this point up where everyone can be and is an educator or nature educator. Then it kind of brings me or makes me think of this next question, where what role do like experts like zoologists or botanists play, or conservation organizations like NCF play in interacting with with the audience or with the nature educators? Please, Sabina, if you would want to take that.
Yeah. So I'd like to answer this question, by just narrating an experience we had. So we'd gone to the Pallikarnai marshland in Chennai, right? We'd gone to do some bird watching early in the morning. So this trip of ours, we had done it with another, a nature educator who'd come along with us, and she'd given us a couple of worksheets, etc., where we had to make our observations and notice things and stuff like that, right? And so she had a question. She asked us, okay, so what do you see, right? And we were like, I could see it's just some, stagnant water, and at a distance I saw some dead tree and there was some bird on it. I couldn't identify the bird, and nothing much. There was some, I could see some plants that is growing on the surface of the water, and yeah, there were some birds here, there, and that's it, right? So this was my observation, right? And then she actually guided us as to, okay, do you see any differences in the kind of vegetation that is there near shore and far shore, right? Yeah, it was different, right? Okay, what are the differences you see? Okay, then it was like, okay, you notice birds far away and you notice some birds here, right? So is there a difference, right? Yes. So like this, it was like, she was actually breaking down our observation and asking us, do you see a difference in this? Do you see it? So what, we, in a common man's eye was like, for me, it was just stagnant water, right? And a little, I mean, what to say, nothing more than that, it was the obvious things is what I could kind of, say. But an educated mind, definitely, I mean, she was able to guide us to, do you see differences in this, the observations that we made in that process and the learnings that came out of it were quite profound, right? So I think that's the role of, the organizations that exist. And on top of that, the kind of resources that is created, I don't think, at least me, I mean, I don't have any kind of a background. If those resources did not exist, it would be very difficult for me to do it myself. I could not go and read textbooks and, encyclopedias to go gather all this information and things like that. But this is like, so bite-sized, right? And resources that are relevant to the local context, right? So there is a major role by these organizations. I don't think nature education is possible, we can never, write off nature educators at all, right?
Thank you, Sabrina. Karnika, if you'd like to add.
So I think, like I already mentioned that the resources I've used by Early Bird, if it wasn't for those, I wouldn't have felt supported and empowered to do this. What I've also noticed, the way the children use these resources, so the flashcards in particular, they saw the same bird. Because some of the children need more practice with the binoculars, or they're probably too young to see through the binoculars. They're able to see a bird in a distance. They're able to see the main colors. But when they have a closer look on a flashcard, they're very excited. And they flip it over and they see the bird in flight, and they, oh, these are the colors. There's now suddenly, and on the field, this child was at once said, yeah, I mean, I see it every day. This bird, in a sense, what's more to learn about it? But when they saw the same bird, all the colors very pronounced on the flashcard, it was another experience this child was going through, and another appreciation. So, and honestly, if it wasn't for the why of the nature education, so for instance, where the climate science comes in, or the State of India's birds report comes in, the people who feel passionate about getting children closer to nature, right? Those reasons wouldn't exist. There would have been, some less motivation. So the science behind all these, behind the reason that I think what we're discussing here is really the pedagogy. So we're all very familiar with the instruction kind of education, and that's where the question is. So this coming together of a pedagogy and learning approach to the learning and the information, how do we make this digestible and age appropriate and that way? So I think the resources, the right use of resources, the right time, and so there is ample space for exploration and questioning, which is not dampened by overwhelming amount of information. So that balance, that delicate balance, where really curiosity can thrive and questions can get refined.
Thank you, Karnika. And Suhirtha, what do you think, like these subject experts or conservation organizations play a role, kind of a role in the
Yeah, I agree with Sabina and Karnika. Like anyone can help you appreciate nature, your grandparents or parents and anyone. But that mere appreciation is not enough these days, no? So organizations like NCF or any other scientific institutes come and they help bridge that gap of why this patch of land is needed, why you need to conserve this, the linking between what you see and how it's interconnected with the other organisms or the ecosystem. I think organizations like, scientific organizations, they come to bring out the action that might ensue after appreciation. I think that's where our scientific institutes come into play, and that's why we need more resources out there so people can make that connection far easier.
That's true. I think just to summarize what you guys mentioned, that it's good. It helps you validate your observations, kind of get a more seasoned or trained eye to details, while also giving the right way of engaging or with giving like a more structured framework to engage with people, or it can come down to anything where it's just the creation of right resources. And I think that's really important. Like, these resources do kind of having them, like Sabina said, if they were not there, it would have been really difficult to be in a space where you have to, to some extent, pass on some information to people or kids, especially. So, like, I think Karnika did mention a few of the resources that she's been using, or rather innovated. I would I would like to ask Suhirtha, Sabina, to you, what kind of resources, if you do know, can really help educators and to start, or rather even engage with their uh, audience. Sabina, if you want.
Yeah, so we voraciously use Palluir Trust, right? Their resources, they're all like, based, what to say, their resources are all based, what to say, in Chennai. So it's all, it's very, has all the local context for us. So with respect to, and they have a lot of, very mundane but very thought-provoking bingo sheets, as they call it. Like, they have something called as a wall bingo. So you just step out into your neighborhood, and these are things that you will find on the walls of buildings that is there around you, kind of thing. So there'll be some cocoons, and they all these kind of stuff. There is something called litter survey. So it's all like leaves, dried leaves that are heaped up somewhere. You'd find all these things. So in that, there'll be like 10 to 15 items listed there that you can find in a leaf litter, right? So these kind of stuff, right, is what to say, which actually enabled us to go on to a lot of neighborhood walks and understand our neighborhood, our local thing very well, right? What to say, all those resources came from Palluir Trust, and forever very thankful to them for that, right? Because initially when we started off, anything you get onto Google and you search, right, it's all, I used to find all nature resources, or things about birds and animals, etc., somewhere in the US or somewhere else that is completely unrelatable. These are not birds that we even see here and things like that, right? But what to say, all thanks to God that we came across their resources, which is beautiful. They have a lot of resources. You should actually free downloadable resources, and they have one very good one that's about on the coastal. There's a booklet on coastal coastal fauna, right? And it's a brilliant one. All that you will see on the coast, it's about, I think, 100 plus species listed over there with pictures, the Tamil name and the English name and things like that. And I remember that during the very same shore walk that I mentioned, we were actually, that was one of the first walks that we had a pamphlet in our hand, and we went on a walk, searching for things, and do you think we spotted nothing? We didn't find anything at all. Then out of nowhere, these boys came and they're like, what is that you're carrying in your hand? And they took it and they saw so many things, and they were discussing amongst themselves, hey, see, we saw that and all. I'm like, really, you've seen all these things? And that's when he ran and opened his dad's treasure trove and brought all those crabs and everything, and he showed us, see, this is this, and these things are only seen in this kind of a season and stuff like that, right? So yeah, so Palluir Trust has been one of the resources that we use, mainly because of the local context, and we've used a lot of resources from nature classrooms. again, those housemates, very simple ones for children in the elementary phase, to to observe and things like that. Yeah. And a lot of the early bird resources as well, right? So these are the three which I could just remember on top of my mind right now. Yeah. Hope it helps. Yeah.
Sorry. Suhirtha, do you have any resources to add to this list that probably have helped you or you've seen that have helped? Or Suhirtha, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I think Early Birds pocket guides, I think they're fantastic. It's easy to carry. Everyone, a lot of kids really want to have a hold of it, and they keep it very safe. And I've seen a lot of kids, use it regularly. And I've also seen 𝗦𝗽𝗲 has a lot of materials. 𝗦𝗽𝗲 has a lot of, I recently saw moths of Tamil Nadu. So they have a similar pocket guide. Similarly, there are some for butterflies by that I know of. Sorry, it might differ. For Tamil Nadu, there's a small booklet of butterfly booklets. So yeah, I think these small, easy to carry ones are really handy, and it would be that's helpful actually.
I just wanted to add even by Roar 𝗔𝗯𝗂𝗏𝗃, I think, by Sharan. Yeah, so they have a lovely bunch of pocket guides on butterflies, moths,
Yeah.
I think trees, common trees in Tamil Nadu. So they have a lot of, again, to the context is Tamil Nadu. Yeah, they have some brilliant stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and also
And
SeasonWatch has a lot of
yeah,
resources. We have our tree pocket guides and also pamphlets, easy to use ones. Yeah, you can also go check our resource.
yes. So all these links to these resources or organizations where you can get these resources will link. We've shared them in the chat right now as well, but we'll also link them in the YouTube recording on our channels. You can check them out there. And Karnika, you did share two of the uh, games that you innovated based on the need. And I would like, are there any some more that you've innovated or kind of used and you would like to share?
I hope to, but I haven't yet. And thank you so much, Sabina and Suhirtha. I've made a note of what you have shared. These links I did not know, the 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗏𝗃 Trust. In fact, I'm in love with this book called Trees of Delhi by Pradeep Krishan. And it's quite applicable to other cities as well. I've been told that it's a great read, although the book's name is Trees of Delhi, and it's an extensive study of the trees of Delhi with photographs and with the leaf categories, and there's a whole lot of it in it, and it really opens up a lot of space for questions, this book. So that as well. And the pocket guides, yes, I had to share that it was a wonderful incident where 4 of the children that I work with, and they carried the Kerala pocket guides on a trip to Kerala, and they carried these guides all along for they were 3 weeks of stay there. They would carry the pocket guide everywhere they went, and the locals they were engaging with hadn't seen that guide earlier, and they were so excited because it had the regional name, the local name in their script along with the English name, and they loved it. And these children, on the final day before they left, they gifted those pocket guides to the people there. So this sharing that comes with the resources is also wonderful to witness. I just wanted to add about that as well, that since we're talking about resources, the pocket guides, yes, definitely. And birds of the world, I think all of us must take a lot of advantage of birdsoftheworld.com, especially because it does not come with a subscription fee for us, I think, in India. And you can simply sign in and access plethora of information from Birds of the World. I remember So going back to that question that you had said about, where does the information and science and conservation foundations come in, and where, so we'd gone to a very forgotten sort of a wetland, which is not a recognized, it's not a Ramsar site, but there are about 150 bar-headed geese there on the wetland. And if it wasn't for the information that these majestic birds, fly over the Mount Everest to get here, I couldn't have shared it with the children around me, and they couldn't have had the awe moment, what they were looking at, how far this bird has flown to visit their neighborhood. So Birds of the World is a website as well, is great, I feel. So that's another resource I'd like to add.
Thank you for sharing like so many resources where people can use while they are getting started, or if they want to kind of engage more with children. Since it's already 5 right now, Abhishek has shared a feedback form in case there are people who would want to leave early. Please take a few minutes to fill the feedback form so that we can get more such sessions to you and cater to what you want to us to take up as topics. So in case you would like to scan the form that's there. And that also kind of asking people what they want kind of can give them a feeling of being empowered in sense of they're getting value out of some engagements. So Early Bird had kind of done a survey for educators to understand what they need, and based on which we've created a whole lot of resources that I think Sabina, Suhirtha, and Karnika have already mentioned of. And I think there were some people who were asking about like if we do workshops on nature, like how to be a nature educator, but we do train people, either beginner birders or bird enthusiasts or teachers, or who can that's like a capacity building program where you can kind of get tips and tricks on better engagement and how you can better engage with children or even any adult for that matter. And so I think we can take some questions from the audience. We do have a lot of questions, and I think Abhisheka will help us out with that.
Yeah, thanks, Amrita. There's a question where I'll just read out the question. In the city areas where having or even finding a terrace garden is becoming a tough task, can you please touch upon different activities which leads to simple observations? Would any of you like to take this?
There's a book by Nature Classrooms. I think it's Am I here? I'm here. I'm not here. Correct me if I'm wrong. I forget the name. It's a small comic. I mean, illustrated book.
There's
yeah,
nothing there.
There's nothing there. Yeah. So observing, the ants that goes into the cracked walls, or observing the spiders in your home. I think in places where there is no biodiversity around, I mean trees or any garden or playgrounds, I think you can start looking at the weather, observe the clouds, observe the direction of the clouds. I think you can start there and slowly, expand your horizon.
There's also a bingo sheet by Early Bird, I think, which came out during the lockdown. I think which was around the house, a bingo sheet of around the house where you have silver wheels, and so there is so much that you can find inside the house. I also feel home composting is a great opportunity. And even if one does not have the time or the space to do it regularly, but even if it has to be done as a project of engagement, um, there's a lot that goes on in the process of composting. There's a lot to observe. So maybe that can also be a project to do at home where one doesn't need to step out, but there is a lot going on.
Yeah, I would also like to add, as Suhirtha mentioned, nature classrooms. They also, during the lockdown time, they also came up with bingo sheets, which are called hidden housemates, to look at, wildlife within your house. And it's not like, I mean, even if we are living in a concrete jungle, I think, even a wall has some life on it, not just, if you look closely, there could be definitely some, insects, spiders, or tiny plants growing on the pavement. It's just about opening our eyes and looking at things around. And Early Bird also during lockdown came up with this webinar on balcony birding, like the common birds that you can see from just your balcony, where you can't step out. Yeah. So I'll read out the next question, which is this is a question on YouTube channel. Most people often question nature education. Oh, this is just time pass. No, so better sit and study for an exam. How to still keep heart and go on with the nature education journey?
So I like to take this. As long as you speak to the children, you'll be able to continue. Don't speak to the parents. So actually, it's quite sad that the value to nature education. I mean, nature education hasn't received its right place, right? I truly believe that because I mean, what to say? The thing that it's through nature education that children become curious. Children observe so keenly. It is sad that we're not able to value these kind of skills, which is actually wearing out in today's fast life. Actually, yeah.
I'd also like to add, so some of the teachers who regularly participate in SeasonWatch, and they've been observing trees along with their students for several years. So they've mentioned that they've really seen a change in the attitude of kids, how inquisitive they are about asking questions in class, and in general their way of approach to other lessons in classroom through their outdoor learning experience. It's they've said that it has really changed a lot of their attitude. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of things that you can get out through nature education.
Thanks, Suhirtha. There's a long question. Um, as a wildlife photographer and an enthusiast, whenever I visit in several areas, I found lots of children, local children who are getting interested to going out with me, and not only little children, I found lots of local people getting interested to see the photographs or videos I clicked. And I think it's a brilliant tool to educate them through photographs and videos, as well as binoculars. I think it's also good to give education to those people who are local. Sometimes they've missed out some rare species. If possible, how can I start it in a systematic way?
Can I take this question? Yeah, I think it's really a fantastic question, because when we as educators, I'm really scared to use this word. When the audience you engage with, they come from really different backgrounds. No, when kids from urban city come and you take them for a walk, they are really interested. They go like, wow, that bird, that bird, that bird. But if you engage with kids who come from a rural background, who are always around nature, it doesn't, that awe you see in urban kids, it's not there in rural kids, but that doesn't mean that they're not connected. So I think as educators, we need to tune in to the audience we engage with. So kids who live near to a forest area, they are more aware than what we might know of that place. So I think we should go with an attitude of openness, that I don't know more than you. Let's share things. I can, tell you that this bird is this, it's rare, it's threatened or something. You can give information. At the same time, you learn from the local individual you work, you're taking them with, you ask them, like, have you heard this call? Have you seen this bird? Have you seen the behavior of this bird? When it rains here, when it, you know, try to make them part of the journey as much as, don't let us not sound like an educator in front of them. Try to make it mutual. I think that way it will be more joyful, and they also feel appreciated, that you appreciate their experiences and knowledge. I think yeah, that's what I feel.
I'd like to add, if in case the place you have visited happens to be a threatened habitat, I think it becomes a great opportunity to have a dialogue with them about how important their home is to these birds. If if it's birds that we're talking about here, and I think that will also be a great starting point to a conversation which would build on and on. You could provide them with that information, which may go a long way of engagement as well and action as well.
Thanks, Suhirtha and Karnika. I would like to also add, sometimes local kids and local youth have so much knowledge, and apart from getting them to feel proud about the kind of knowledge they possess, maybe it would also be nice to see how, because there's this question about how to systematically, engage them. Maybe introducing them to some of the citizen science programs or monitoring tools which are simple. Also, there are a few resources I could recommend. One is Handbook for Bird Educators, which has few projects to engage students once they are familiar with their local birds. And also this booklet by 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗸𝗀, which introduces to biodiversity through different activities. So some of these have these components of systematically getting children or youth involved in connecting to our biodiversity or our surroundings. Since we have already gone past the time, I'll take one last question. We are from nature, of nature, belonging to nature. So sitting within four walls and learning something only in pictures will never let us feel connected. So how can we imagine kids doing that? Any thoughts on this question?
Don't do that. Take them out.
Yeah, I think nature education is only half done if you just sit with a textbook or with some material within four walls. Until and unless you've not gone out, right? It's an incomplete experience. Yeah.
I think it's also a refining of our senses. I realize I listen much more after I've so there's a fair bit of learning that you do indoors when you're not outside, but then there is just so much that you do outside, and you open up your ears and your eyes and you're sort of looking around. much more. So there's, of course, and I think much of what we spoken in the last hour was sharing experiences of what we observed outside. So yes, please go out and have fun exploring and then observing.
Yeah, thank you all. And just as an extension, yes, you don't really have to travel far to go to the wild to learn about nature. I think we are all surrounded by some, you know, even the urban parks, the little gardens in the apartment complexes, or in rural areas where children are just walking to school from their houses. All these can be kind of utilized to connect them to nature. And like Karnika mentioned, it's all about opening out our senses and listening, feeling, and seeing what's around us. So I'll pass it on to Amrita to conclude this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhisheka. And thank you, Suhirtha, Sabina, and Karnika for bringing in so many experiences and sharing with us the insights you've learned from it and how it is just getting started is what we need when it comes to nature education. And one doesn't need to be an expert or be a subject expert or to be trained in uh, nature in any field of natural world. I think in this field where we are in this place where the line between a educator and a learner is kind of very blurry, and the educator themselves have so much to learn that it becomes like a co-learning experience more, and that's what kind of makes the nature experience even better. So thank you for joining, and thank you for sharing your experiences, and I hope we leave this session feeling more nurtured and empowered to kind of embrace ourselves a bit more with the identity of educator, if that really is what we want to, like the purpose of engaging and connecting. But I really hope that all of us find the curiosity to take forward and bring in these interactions and connections with nature. So there's just before we close, there's one question. Someone wanted to know how they can get in touch with the speakers, and if Sabina and Karnika, you're okay with it, we can share your email addresses or contact details with people so they can get in touch with you.
Sure, Amrita.
So thank you everyone for joining, and this session, the recording for this session will be up on our YouTube channel, and in the description you will find links to all the resources that have been mentioned or any other relevant links to organizations or booklets that have been talked about in the session. And we'll also share the contact details for the speakers so that you can get in touch with them. So stay tuned, and you can follow us on social media or join our WhatsApp channel or announcement group where you can stay updated of the future upcoming webinars or any other programs that we have planned. So thank you for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.